Welcome, everybody, to the GioMoShow. We got a special here today. Giovanni Moceri, your host of the GioMoShow. We have a review with Drew here. He's been along with us the whole time throughout the men's basketball season. Part of our play-by-play and color commentating group here at WXOU Sports. Drew Allison joins us on the GioMoShow.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Looking forward to this.
Looking forward to this as well. We're going to be talking about the entirety of this historic, monumental, golden season for the Golden Grizzlies men's basketball team, ending it in March Madness.
Yep.
So we'll be talking all about that, going through the season, our thoughts from our eyes as not only fans of Oakland University, but also through the eyes of broadcasters, being able to be almost as close as possible to being in the game.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through our experiences, what we remember most from this season, some of our top moments, some of our top memories from this season. We're going to go through all of it on the GioMoShow Reviews with Drew. So we'll start things off as to what we were thinking going into this season.
Yeah, and so, I remember us sitting in that room over there when we did the scheduling. We were talking about it and everything, and I was new to this. I didn't know too much about the team. I didn't follow it last year. I transferred a year and a half ago here. Yeah. And I looked at you and Harj, and I was like, hey, how good is this team? Do we have a chance to win? And they're like, yeah, we have a chance. It's not overly likely. We're picked 6th in the preseason poll, but there's a chance. And I've grown up a basketball fan. I've followed March Madness since I was a kid. I understand mid-major basketball, anything can happen.
Exactly.
Anything can happen. It would have been a shock if Detroit Mercy won it, but it wouldn't have been completely out of the picture just because in mid-major, anything can happen. So when you guys told me that, I was like, okay, so we're on the downside looking out, but it's still possible. And then, we did that first game together. We did the Michigan State game, and I was like, it's about what we projected and everything. Yeah. And then they kind of just got on a heater. So in the midst of it, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot going in, but as the season went on, you start to just get more and more of okay, there's a chance that they can get this done.
Yeah,
there's a chance we can make it.
Real.
Exactly. What were you thinking going into the season? Same boat?
A little bit, yeah. We followed it last year on WXOU Sports, and the big thing for this offseason was losing Jalen Moore and that solid point guard position that we had for 3 years here at Oakland. He was first team All Horizon League most of his time here, and he was the main engine for Oakland on the offensive end. And a point guard is obviously one of a very important position to have established like that. But losing him and we didn't have the most defined plug and play replacement for Jalen Moore. It was a challenge to replicate that kind of production and kind of keep a pseudo point guard position going. So yeah, going into the season, losing that piece, losing Keaton Hervey, who was a real glue guy. He was a 15 and 7 rebounds every game, very very solid piece. And so losing the both of them, it's 6th place in the Horizon League was about where I thought we were because last year we finished 5th.
Right.
So yeah, did not expect any of this to come out of this season.
You lose 2 of your key guys and 2 of possibly your best players. Maybe Townsend's that second best or something last year. But
Townsend was on the come up though. He was second team all league, and some would declare that he got snubbed for the first team.
Yeah, but you lose 2 of your 3 guys. 2 of your 3-star players. Most people aren't going to think that you're going to finish at the top when you didn't finish at the top last year. That's the Heat losing LeBron and D Wade and just maintaining Chris Bosh. They're not going to win the East. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't think anyone thought that Oakland losing 2 of their top 3 players was going to win the Horizon League. But Jack Golke comes in as a transfer, lights it up off the bench all year long once they moved him to that 6-man role, electric 3-point shooter. Rocket Watts kind of got a little better this year. I think offense.
They kind of changed his role a little bit, more of a Swiss Army knife, keep him fresh and let him at the top, their top scorer.
Yeah, I don't think that scoring is necessarily his thing. He's not your polished scorer, someone kind of like Lampman is,
right?
But he is phenomenal defensively.
Yes,
Rocket Watts on defense this year. We saw him make so many plays, and you talked about how we're as close as anybody can be. We're sitting right behind Campy.
Yeah.
And how many times this year did we say, "Rock, I need you"?
Yes.
He looks right at Rocket Watts and says, "We need you right now." He's like, "I need your defense."
Yeah.
And
last 5 minutes of the game.
Yep.
That guy does not score. Marquez Warwick, Trey Calvin, they do not score.
Yep. And Lampman comes out because Lampman's a better offensive than a defensive player. So Lampman comes out, Rocket Watts, DQ Cole go up, run the guards. Usually Jackson there, and then they've got Trey and Chris, Rocket Watts, phenomenal defensively, and a great passer too. Great facilitator, great passer. Like I said, not someone that's really going to score. He's not going to drop a step back three on you, but he is a great facilitator.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess kind of getting into the additions and the changes for this season. DQ Cole was such a huge addition to this team here. Just like 10 minutes away from Henry Ford Community College, from Pontiac, wanted to stay in the area, but he came in and he was just a lightning bolt for this team. Yeah. I remember I talked to it was about last year about this time, about April. I was talking to Kevin Beers for one of my interviews on the GioMoShow, which you can go check out. And he gave me a little heads up because I was seeing the kind of the transfers commit, and I saw the graphics come in. And Kevin Beers told me DQ Cole deep from three.
Yep.
Now, it's not the only thing he ended up being able to do, but he at a moment's notice, at the drop of a hat, he can get you 12 boards. He can get you 20-some points. He could do anything for this team, and that proved to be crucial throughout this season.
Definitely, and that's why next year, with some other guys leaving, you kind of expect him to take over that point guard role.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it's not his natural position.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone has to do it, and we know Chris Conway and Isaiah Jones are not going to do it.
It's not their bread and butter.
Yeah, no, so I think DQ, with another season learning this system and everything, getting better as a player, learning what Campy looks for in his offense and his defense, I think that next year he would be very well put in that one.
Definitely. And we'll save a little bit of our future predictions for next season for a little bit, but I want to get started kind of going through the season here. Would you believe me if I told you that this team, the one that went to overtime against NC State, the Final Four team for this year's tournament, would you believe this Golden Grizzlies team lost to Walsh University in the first exhibition game?
It's crazy.
I was calling that game with Jacob Verhostic for WXOU Sports. We lost to Walsh. People thought it was the business school. And I'm like, no, it's a D2 university. They have a team.
Walsh College to me means online school.
So it's Walsh University. It's different.
Yeah, we lost to a bunch of kids who sit at home on their laptop and do online school. What?
Yeah, we lost to homeschool kids.
Literally,
that was the vibe, and people were like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
It's exhibition. It's not supposed to matter, but I saw people on Twitter it wasn't very happy with it to start it off.
I mean, like you said, exhibitions don't matter a whole lot.
No, they don't want to show what they're going to be actually playing
exhibitions.
With.
A lot of times you pull your starters, you play some of your managers. For reference on exhibitions not mattering, one time the Kobe Bryant era Great Lakers lost to a team in Barcelona, Spain in an exhibition by 15. Obviously, we know that some random team in Barcelona is not better than the great Kobe Bryant Lakers.
Right.
Just as reference on why exhibitions don't matter.
Yeah, and I remember seeing just last point in this Walsh game, but yeah, Kobe Mitchell. Funny you mentioned Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
This kid had 32 points. It was 9 of 14 from three. Ouch. But
it's a Jack Oakey stat right there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep, it's a Jack Oakey stat, guys.
But anyway, that's the exhibition stuff. We ended up beating Wayne State. And then we get into the first two games of the regular season, that Big Ten stretch against Ohio State and against Illinois. Oakland held tough throughout those games. They led for most of those minutes during the game. Yep. And just the last moments of the game, couldn't get it to materialize into a win. But man, you could tell this team's starting to get, this team is good.
Yeah, the Ohio State one, they led until, what was it, a minute 30 left? I think so. 40?
They led for 38 some minutes.
It was really, really late. And then Ohio State just kind of made a couple stops. Oakland got stagnant on offense, couldn't get anything going. And then Ohio State was able to squeak out that one. They kind of exploited the zone last couple of minutes, found some easy buckets. But no, I was watching that game. I'm like, wow, this team might beat Ohio State.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
Yeah, it was about 9.5 minutes in the second half where Ohio State got the lead.
Yeah, well, I think Oakland got it back though, and then they held it up until for a while. No,
9.5 minutes, and then it was a small manageable lead for Ohio State throughout the rest, but it was still really close.
Okay,
but this is Big Ten. We're talking Big Ten teams here.
Sure.
And Oakland was able to lead for, what would that be, 30 some minutes during of the game.
Yeah,
it's impressive stuff to start the season with.
Yeah, I mean they held their own in. I mean it's in Ohio State too. These Big Ten schools, a lot of people don't know. Big schools, they pay you to come play them.
That's a buy game.
Yes, exactly. They pay you to come play them, and the last thing they're thinking is to lose that game.
Right.
they're not thinking that they're going to pay some school, I don't know if it's 500,000, a million, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
They're not thinking that they're going to then lose that game.
Yeah,
and then they almost might.
Yeah, what kind of team would pay for Oakland to come into their house and then get beat? More on that later.
Yes, I was like, a team did do that.
But then kind of a similar situation when they were at Illinois.
Yeah.
At the time, Illinois was 25th team in the country.
Yep.
Ended up holding that one close too, losing that one 53-64. But like I mentioned, the game was a lot closer than the score. But you can tell it's like it's going to happen. This team is good, and especially like if you're hanging that close in the Big Ten, Horizon League is going to look real good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw, like with the Illinois, what they went on to be this year.
Yeah.
How good they were. So hanging that close with Illinois shows you've got the potential. And that's why if I had to identify some key losses this year, all of our Big Ten losses are key losses because of how close we were, how we almost snuck it out, and that you can easily identify a gap in the game where you lost that game.
Right.
A 4-minute stretch where you had nothing offensively or defensively, a missed assignment, a shot clock, violation, whatever it might be. You can identify key moments in these games where we lost these games.
Yeah, but then in those cases, you know what to fix.
Absolutely, and that's why it's good. That's why
you got to fix.
That's why they're key losses, because we didn't lose by 35.
No,
when you lose by 35, you can't really say that there's a 2-minute stretch where you lost that game.
It's like
it's the whole game.
There's nothing to learn here. You throw it out.
You can find 2 minutes in a 35-point loss where you didn't stink, but the rest of the game probably not too well.
Now, moving on through the season, our home opener against Bowling Green, we ended up winning that one big time.
Yep.
After Bowling Green beat us last year, but Bowling Green didn't have like any of their players returning this year. So, but yeah, that game was a big win, 81-62. And then the team went on to the Cayman Islands Classic. And now this one, I would identify this one as also a huge key 3 games for Oakland, because they went 2-1 in their 3 games played. First one was against Drake, where we also that one, it wasn't as close as the Big Ten games were, but we were holding pretty close, competitive.
Only 8-point loss.
Yeah,
Drake, a tournament team.
Yeah.
Good team in Drake. So, you, as a mid-major school, you lose by 8 to a tournament team. I know Drake is obviously mid-major as well.
Yeah.
But Drake's a mid-major tournament team. They have really good results every year.
Yeah.
They're quite dominant in their conference. So you lose by 8 to a team that's almost always a tournament team.
And
you're doing something right.
Yeah, and Tucker DeVries, like a huge draft pick for this year. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game to start off the Classic. And to kind of give some context, last year they went to the Bahamas in the Nassau Championship.
Yep.
They lost all those games. It was not a good, and it ended up kind of slumping into
that tournament's
some
usually a pretty loaded tournament with some like big teams.
Yeah.
Like teams like North Carolina have gone to that quite often. Arizona, Gonzaga, UCLA. That's a hard one to win.
Yeah.
The Nassau.
Yeah, the Nassau one. So to give context for last year, but now that they came into the Cayman Islands Classic against, in that pool were, like, in addition to Drake, there were other tournament teams in there as well.
Sure.
But after that loss to Drake, they went on to beat Loyola Marymount, top 100 team at the time. Huge win for not only Oakland but the Horizon League to be able to punch up in that way. And then they followed that up by beating Marshall to end up being, I believe, they were 5th place in the Cayman Islands Classic, and Rocket Watts was part of the all tournament team.
Yeah. 20 points against Marshall, 23 against Drake. Now, that didn't really translate to the rest of the year, but granted, it got you wins when you needed it, and that's what counts.
Yeah, in terms of the individual scoring, and even against Marshall, Isaiah Jones had, I believe, 16 points, and showed that. We saw it didn't end up happening often, but he can score if he has to.
Yeah.
So it just kind of gave you the sense of okay, it can really come from anybody on this team. That's where you're able to see the depth was, during this Cayman Islands Classic. So going 2-1 during those 3 games was huge for Oakland in this season. And then they followed that up with another monster. This one was definitely, if you thought beating Loyola Marymount was like that big Horizon League win.
Yep.
At home, at Xavier, Monday night, prime time, Oakland beats the Musketeers 78-76.
Yeah, and one of Townsend's best performances on the year. Led the team in points, rebounds, and assists. That does not happen very often where someone, especially in mid-major basketball, leads the team in all 3. You don't find players as well-rounded as Townsend. And, I mean, he's a special breed, man. He's
Definitely.
a special breed.
This was really a precursor for what he was going to end up being all season,
Yes.
leading Oakland in all the stats himself on average by the end of it. But also, I mean, just putting his name on the map: 28 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He was 11 of 18 from the floor. Like, he gave it to him.
Yes,
And they didn't.
absolutely.
They did not see it coming. Him and Chris Conway were getting to go, and as Chris had 15 points in that game, 6 of 8 from the floor, and six rebounds himself. That game, I was able to watch that one and kind of listen along. I mean, on TV and stuff, but just to see Oakland in that kind of spotlight was awesome.
And worth noting, they were without one of their leaders. Lampman still had that hip injury.
Yeah.
We
another storyline to go for that season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We thought that he was going to be out the year. It turns out it wasn't. He was just that hip injury, missed a couple of games. But, I mean, you beat a quad 100 team in Xavier, at Xavier. They paid us to come.
Yes, they did.
We did not pay for that game, or that was not one of those normal ones. They paid us to come because, Xavier's a great team, Big East.
Yeah.
They didn't make the tournament this year, but they're usually in the tournament.
They were a 3rd seed in last year's tournament.
Yes, they're a great team. And, we beat them without one of our captains, and Lampman, who was a double-digit scorer, great player. So it just showed our depth. Like you said, Conway did great. Townsend was great. Jack Golke had 12, and then off the bench, Tone Hunter with 5. We called him the Energizer Bunny this year. Comes in, gets you a quick 2, 3, 5 points, comes out. Great player, but that game was just almost, I know the score is close, but almost flawless offensively and defensively.
Yeah,
they were everywhere.
It was like the perfect game for Oakland, especially at the time. So they get that big win against Xavier, and now the next 2 games they played, like, this was a week where they played 3 games in a span of like 6 days.
Yep, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday.
Yeah. So that Wednesday game was at Detroit Mercy. That one was a bit of a cakewalk. 65-50 was the final score, and then that Saturday. Now we're in December 2nd. We hosted Purdue Fort Wayne for for the second Horizon League game of the year. Mm-hmm. Listen, you play 3 games in a week. You're gonna run a little bit. You're gonna run out of juice. You have a big win. I mean, like, not only just like, it's not just cupcake games.
No,
you beat Xavier. It's an emotional game, a rivalry at Detroit, and then you play Purdue Fort Wayne, and I couldn't believe my eyes. In this game.
I mean, Purdue Fort Wayne. It's a good team.
They are.
It really is. They're a very young team, which is why it's also a little scary being an Oakland fan. They have all but one guy coming back next year. A lot of transfers on that team.
Sophomores and juniors this year.
It's a really, really, really good team. And so that's why when we lost them, I was like, okay, I'd rather lose to Purdue Fort Wayne than U of D.
Right.
If we lost to U of D, we might have some issues. We lose to Purdue Fort Wayne. You know what? It's a good team. They can beat anyone in this conference.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy about it, obviously, but I wasn't concerned. It wasn't something where I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Now, we lose to IUPUI, U of D, it's a little bit different story, but we lose to Purdue Fort Wayne, a good team. It wasn't a big deal. It just wasn't our night. Nothing was going in the arena that night.
It was can't be called one of the greatest games he's ever seen a team come into our house and play.
Yeah.
They scored. The score was 98-77. Mastodons win. They were 66% from the field, 65% from 3, and 83 from the line. Nothing was like, you couldn't do anything about it.
No.
These 3, like, all the threes that they were making, they were contested, but they just kept going in. It was insane, especially me in the stands. I'm trying to get the crowd hyped, but it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't, I couldn't believe it.
And I mean, for Oakland, they did a really, really good job of shutting down Townsend. He only got off 8 shots that night.
Yeah.
Which is one of his lowest on the season. Jack, that was back when we had Jack in the starting lineup, which can't be realized. Jack in the starting lineup wasn't the right recipe.
Right.
Him coming off the bench was much better. He was 3 of 13 on the night, so really not a great night for Jack.
Yeah,
Isaiah Jones.
A rare 2-point attempt from him as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, actually, he's got 2 of them that night. Made one of them.
Oh, is that right?
DQ Cole off the bench was probably the best part of that team that night. 3 of 8 from 3, 7 of 14 overall.
Yeah, 21 points.
Yeah, he did great, but that was a game where it got away from them early.
It was you couldn't do anything about it. The vibe of the game. Like it was just like you gotta just sit back and watch and just throw the tape away. There's nothing to learn from that.
No, and Purdue Fort Wayne at the time was 8-1.
Yeah, they were cooking in the first part of their season.
They looked like they were gonna win the Horizon League at that point. They looked like they were gonna run away with it. They dominated their out of conference. They only had one loss to that point, so they were moving through.
And then they followed that game up. Now we're on to Wednesday, December 6th. They were hosting the Toledo Rockets. And this one, me and you were calling this game for WXOU. This game went down to the wire, just not in favor of the Golden Grizzlies.
This was my first game, I believe. Yeah, my first game.
Yeah.
And then, you were play-by-play. I did color. It was back and forth the whole time. And what really set them apart in that game and caused the loss was when they came out in the second half flat.
Yeah.
The first 5 minutes, Campy mentioned it in the presser, the first 5 minutes in that second half, if you go back and watch that or just look at the play-by-play, they came out flat, offensively and defensively. So the rest of that second half was constant recovery mode.
Yeah.
How do we catch back up?
Catch up, yeah.
Yep, it was constant catch up, and they almost did catch up. They lost by 1, but when you come out flat offensively and defensively, it makes it really hard. You can survive if you come out flat defensively, if your offense stays together, and vice versa. But you come out flat all around, it's not going to be easy to come back.
Yeah, and this one ended in a heartbreaker of a play. It was 3 seconds left. Oakland had the inbound. I remember they were like right in front of us on the media bench, our sideline. Threw it to Trey down low, tried to get it up. Could have taken like another dribble, another moment to pause, but went up for it, kind of got pushed out the way and missed the shot to win the game. It was just such a heartbreaker.
Yeah, and it's a inbounds play that they run all the time.
Yeah.
I believe it was Neil that asked Coach in the presser about what was the idea behind that play, and they said that they run it all the time.
Yeah,
but Toledo defended it more, better than other teams, which credit to Toledo for watching film
for sure. Yeah.
But no, it was definitely a heartbreaker, and it came right in front of us, so it sucked for us because we're right there watching it. And I will say I didn't mind the no call on Trey. The reason I didn't mind the no call is because
it was a little bit like if you were to watch it happen live.
The reason I don't mind it is because the precedent was set through the game. Because the refs all game on both sides were letting the boys play.
Yeah.
So if you're going to let them play, I am completely okay with you letting them play at the very end.
Yeah, let them finish playing.
Exactly. What I don't like is if they were calling all the contact all game and then they don't call it at the end.
Yeah.
But that's not what they did. The precedent was set right from the get-go. We were going to let the guys play tonight. They did. They let them play in that final minute. Could it have been a foul? Potentially. But was it a foul earlier? No. I don't see a reason to call it a foul now. So I was okay with the no call there. But it was just, Trey probably, you said, one more dribble and then put it up. But you know what?
I mean, it all
you live and you learn.
Fast.
Yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah, and you guys can listen back to that game. We got it on WXOU Sports. We got the audio from the full game. You can catch that last play call of our heartbreaking announcement for that game right on WXOU Sports. So now moving on to the season, they wash that bad taste out of their mouth. Big win at Eastern Michigan, and then they get into their annual game against Michigan State. We were there for that one as well. The score made it look a lot worse than it was, at least only for the first half. I mean, this one was like Oakland had a chance to catch them off guard. The defense was keeping Michigan State at bay, but the second half just opened up everything for Michigan State.
That game was an awesome experience for us to do.
Oh yeah, being at the Bres was awesome.
To go to the Breslin, we got that little area we were in. We got those food vouchers and everything. Great experience.
Yeah,
but they were down by 8 at half. The difference at halftime was 8 points, but it was 4 plays. All of them run out easy in transition Michigan State buckets.
Yeah.
Oakland just didn't get set in time. They were lollygagging a little bit after a bucket or something like that.
A little sluggish.
Yep. Michigan State, ball up the floor, quick, easy bucket. You stop those 4 outbreaks, it's a tie game at halftime.
Yeah.
And now, just like Toledo, the difference in this game was the first 5 minutes of that second half. Mm-hmm. Right away, Tyson Walker, 3-pointer, not even a minute into the second half.
Just one pass and
one pass, bang, Tyson Walker, 3. One of the best guards in the Big Ten, and now he's going, and that's kind of sparked the rest of the team. You saw Cohen Carr throw down a couple dunks.
Yeah, those dunks got people going.
Oh,
man.
yeah, they did. AJ Hogard had a couple buckets there. The first 5 minutes were brutal. They went from being down 8, I think after the 5 minutes, they were down like 22.
Yeah, it got rough.
It got rough really quick, and they kind of took away a little bit of that lead. They ended up losing by 17. They didn't make it any worse. So Michigan State's up. Yeah, Michigan State's up 22. You get it down a little bit, but it shows you that once they regathered themselves after those 5 minutes, they kind of hung with them in terms of not letting Michigan State break it open to a 40-point lead like we've seen them do against small teams before.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an important loss because I think it was another one where you can define what went wrong for you. You can see first 5 minutes of this half, brutal. We got to stop coming out flat in these halves.
Yeah, and it became an emphasis throughout the rest of the season. So after that Michigan State game, they then go on to play at Dayton, get kind of smoked in that one, but Dayton ended up being a really good team this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Against the Flyers. And then we get back, we start the Horizon League season. We are away at Cleveland State and Youngstown State to start things off on that weekend. It was a night and day game for that first one at Cleveland State. It was like I was listening to it on the radio because I was back home, and it was like the Three Stooges got Shemp and Curly Joe to play basketball with them for that first half. It was from the sound of it, it was to be not to be too mean, but like they were dribbling off their foot, they were dropping passes, they were getting passes were just open into the hands of the Vikings. It was looking really, really bad in the first half, but where Campy says that the season changed was in that second half of that game. Now, Oakland still ended up losing. It was 75-67, but Oakland was a completely different team in that second half after getting a foot up there, by Cleveland State. And then that's kind of where it sparked the rest of the season.
Yeah, and then after that, they go on just an absolute heater.
Yeah.
Winning 6 in a row, Youngstown State, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Northern Kentucky, IUPUI, Youngstown State. Youngstown State, second in the Horizon League. You beat them twice in one season, and can't be said in the presser. Not a whole lot of teams are doing that.
No.
There's not a whole lot of teams in this conference that are going to be able to beat Youngstown State twice in the same season in two very different games in Youngstown State, if we can hone in on those. So Youngstown State, that first game, high scoring. Definitely. 88-81 at Youngstown State.
That was Blake Lampman's kind of like big awakening. He had a good performance against Toledo, but at the time, career high 26 points. He was 7 of 13 from 3. He was lighting it up in Ohio.
Yeah. And then they'd go on another big one. They win at Milwaukee, 195. And then the scoring comes down.
That was a regulation, too.
Yes.
There's a lot of free throws.
Yeah. And then the scoring comes down a little bit, and they have to focus more on the defensive side. The Green Bay game, 79-73. Northern Kentucky, 70-65. Pretty low scoring in overtime.
That one was overtime.
That was in overtime. Only 70 points scored. IUPUI, 88-66. That was a bit of a blowout.
Business as
usual.
And
then Youngstown State, they had just gone 88-81. Now they go 70-67.
Yeah.
This is where I think people kind of realize that Oakland can be kind of flexible in terms of how they play. They can play a defensive game and win a game 70-67 or 72-68, but then they can also outscore you. They can beat you 195 like they did.
Yeah.
So that stretch right there, I think, was really important in the season because it allowed them to see, hey, we can beat teams defensively and offensively.
Yeah. How do you want it? We're
exactly.
going to give it to you.
And at that time, Campy talked about, there's not a whole lot of people in the Horizon League that would call Oakland a great defensive team, but he said, I think we are a great defensive team because not a whole lot of teams are holding Youngstown State to 67.
Right.
That was one of their lowest scoring, games this year, and they did it. So that was a really important stretch in the season.
Yeah, the defense was something that Campy hung his hat on, and that was the identifier of the team. They win from their defense, to keep it close enough for their offense to ignite.
Yep.
Yeah, so they go on that big stretch there, that win at home against Youngstown State. We called that one. That one ended really, really awesome close play. There's Rocket Watts right in front of us. Youngstown State had the last inbound. It was 17 seconds left. Two-handed Megatron catch. Yep. Rocket Watts gets it, ends up going to lay it up. It's called for goaltending, so we ended up still getting the points. Yep. But it just that one ended in a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. And what was nice about this, we were on the other side of the Toledo one.
Yeah.
The Toledo one, we watched heartbreak. This one, we watched the glory happen.
That's right.
We got to win that one. We called a lot of close games this year.
Yeah. We did the Northern Kentucky one and went into overtime.
Yep.
Most of the games we called were close.
Yeah, they really were.
So now moving on, they go into their Wisconsin trip, Green Bay and Milwaukee. They lose at Green Bay, and at the time, nobody in the Horizon League has won in the state of Wisconsin. Neither Green Bay nor Milwaukee. So they dropped the one, and Green Bay, top team in the league, like throughout. Yep. They were number 1 at the time. They ended up being number 2, or excuse me, they ended up falling to number 3. But that was a really, really good team. And lost that one 59-69, and then a double overtime thriller in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and Golke 27. But I think the biggest stat line of that one is Baru's 17 rebounds.
Dog, yeah.
No idea where that came from or where that went because it only happened one time.
We've been waiting for that one.
Yeah, the next game he followed up with 8 rebounds, but the big difference between 8 and 17.
Right.
No idea where that came from. That's what kind of what we expected. We've seen that guy have absolutely be able to jump out of the gym. He's an athlete. No idea where that came from. And I also want to know where it went.
Right.
Because we could have used that. Yes, I want it back as well. We could have used that, going on the rest of the season. But Milwaukee, heck of a game. Golke, 27 points. Lampman, 4 assists. Baru, like I said, 17 rebounds. It was a very collective win. Everyone did their part. Everyone played well for all, what is that, 60 minutes technically? Or no, 50?
50
overtime's,
minutes, yeah.
Overtime's 2 and 5, yep. So... Yeah, 50 minutes of just straight up basketball, and they only had a day break.
Yeah,
because they played.
Basically back to back between Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Because they play Green Bay Thursday night, they have Friday off, and then they play Milwaukee Saturday. So they only had a 1 day break, and then you go win a double OT thriller after getting your heart ripped out and losing at Green Bay.
Yeah, and to dig a little bit more into this Milwaukee game, not only did Baru get his 17 rebounds, but Golke in that game, he was 8 of 18 from 3.
Yeah.
But it's where those threes came from that was a more spectacular part. 30-some seconds before halftime, Golke 3. Oakland gets the lead going into the tunnel. 30-some seconds left in regulation. 3-point game, ties it, sends it to overtime. At the end of original overtime, Golke makes a 3, continues the game into double overtime. Like he kept
a little bit of foreshadowing there, huh?
A little bit.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, and then he made another 3 in double overtime, made all 3 free throws after being fouled on one of them. Like we've seen Golke do what he did in Kentucky before. It's not a new thing. So that game, I would say, was his biggest game, especially because he's from the area. He was in front of friends and family. Putting that show on.
And you wonder if that maybe gave him a little bit of extra energy.
Oh, yeah. To
segue just really quick, go back to that Youngstown State game. Not a whole lot of people know this, but Trey Townsend was very, very sick that game.
Yeah.
We saw him literally sit on his chair by himself after a timeout until the ref was practically handing the ball to the inbound. He was absolutely gassed, exhausted. He was Chris Conway's roommate over the weekend, and Chris Conway got sick on the road trip at IUPUI. Gave it to Trey later in the week, and Trey refused to not play, but it was a brutal game for him, and that still just speaks to his intensity and ability to play and still have the game that he did. But yeah, just wanted to jump back on that one real quick.
There's a lot of those storylines that we're trying to pick at through this season. We hope you guys are enjoying and following along for this season here as we go through the schedule. So then after becoming the first team in the Horizon League to win in the state of Wisconsin, the Golden Grizzlies come back home to face Robert Morris in a pretty one-sided game, 87-72. Oakland wins by 15 in that game to continue to start a new win streak. They then will stay at home and in the Hall of Honor promotion game. Hosted Cleveland State in a 83-71 game. But what was the story here besides the game? It was the fans in the stands. Specifically, the swim team in the stands.
The Blacktop Barbershop, as we call it. Here's the thing. If you're a swimmer, you got to shave your head anyways. You might as well do it for a good purpose.
Put it to a good cause.
Yes, exactly. And what a better cause than Oakland Golden Grizzly basketball.
That's what I'm saying.
You might as well do it for the team.
Some teams bleach their hair like I did back in high school. Some teams buzz it. And during that game, the hair was being buzzed for the free throws. I was calling the game, and I knew Ian Allen was the star of that show. He was the one getting his head shaved, among others. I think they shaved the high school kid's head too. Like he just showed up and said, like, "Hey, gonna give me a buzz," but. Ian Allen was leading the charge in that one, and I know him. I know what his hair. He had
he's got some curly hair.
Curly hair. So I'm watching.
A little bit of a poof.
Yeah, I'm doing play-by-play, and I'm looking over to the side. I'm like, his hair looks a little weird. And then I see like the hand going across his head. I'm like, I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah.
I stopped calling the game. I could not focus because I was just looking at them shaving their heads to make Cleveland State
get distracted.
Actually,
and it worked.
They missed
the free throw. It was
they
great.
missed like 4 directly because of them.
It was all over SportsCenter. SVPs talking about it. I've got my friends that go to like Michigan State and Western, these bigger schools. They're like, "Is this your school?" I'm like, "Darn right it is. It is exactly Oakland University. That is what we do here."
That game was just awesome.
It was great. You couldn't go on social media like ESPN or SportsCenter and not see Blacktop Barbershop for about 24 hours. It was everywhere.
It was
everywhere. But that wouldn't be our claim to fame on the year, as we all know.
That's right. Yeah, we ended up kind of going above and beyond the head shaving there. And the swim team went above and beyond for their celebrations too.
Absolutely.
More on that later. But Oakland wins for their 6th straight game at home, or their 6th straight win at home, 83-71 over the Vikings. And then they head on the road to Northern Kentucky for a tough overtime loss, 89-99 over there in Highland Heights. And then they followed that one up. They go to Dayton, Ohio to face the Wright State Raiders.
You were there?
Yeah. WXOU was traveling there. Me and Harsh Buttar, we called the game there. And the Nutter Center, hilarious name, but a fantastic facility.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
That's a nice spot.
Yeah.
For basketball games. It seats like 9,000 plus. I saw the sign. They had like comedians coming to town. Like they have like concerts and stuff there.
Yep.
I'm like, this is a nice venue.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Harj were at that game. We had it live stream on WXOU. You had a little camera on us.
I believe I was your studio for that game as well.
You were studio.
Yes,
we really appreciate your hard work for that one. But just like if you guys were to go back on WXOU Sports and to look at that game, first of all, we were like all the way up in the concourse.
Yeah.
Like the lighting was not very good, and I needed binoculars because
you were so far.
Because we were so far, but not only that, but Wright State decided to wear like white camo jerseys with yellow numbers. I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I had no idea who had the ball until it was
not
too
a
late.
great combo.
Oh my! It was so hard to see, but to get into the game itself, Oakland was facing one of the top offensive teams in the country.
Yep.
Wright State they were like number 1 or number 2 in field goal percentage. They were scoring like 88 a night. Led the Horizon League. Trey Calvin, one of the top scorers in the league. Oakland held them in their house to 60 points.
Yeah.
74-60 was the game. And Oakland had control of it the whole time.
Yep.
Shots were just not going through for Wright State. I'll be honest, they had open shots. They were able to get through it, but it was just their field goal percentage just did not happen during that game.
And it's what we talked about, how Oakland can beat you offensively or defensively. This game, they did a little bit of both. But they can hold you to low points and still maintain their quality.
Yeah.
And it's what they did. But worth noting, after that Green Bay loss, Oakland, they lost the Northern Kentucky one. They win that Wright State one, but they would win 14 of their next 16.
Yeah.
So obviously that Northern Kentucky overtime loss was one of them, but they'd win 14 of their next 16. And obviously they win the Wright State, and then they go play Purdue Fort Wayne, beat them, get their little bit of a revenge.
Yeah.
IUPUI, it's that one they won by nearly 50. Robert Morris. And then they would lose to Wright State.
Yeah, Wright State got their revenge coming back at us, 96-75. So they split the difference. In that game there, but it still doesn't take away the defensive performance. From in Dayton, Ohio.
This one, Wright State just kind of figured out how to play offense against our defense.
Yeah,
and obviously we gave up 96. They found a way.
They figured it out.
They figured out the zone.
So then that leads us, now we're into the month of March. Now we're at the end of the regular season, and it's Detroit Mercy coming into the arena. They got their only win against IUPUI the week before, but you got a starving animal coming into the arena, and they meant business in this rivalry game. Trying to Oakland, if they won that game, they were the outright Horizon League champions
for the first time since joining.
Exactly, yeah, first time in program history. That was on the line. They would have split it with Green Bay had they lose that game. So Detroit did have a little bit of spoiler to be able to play there to take that outright away from Oakland. And dude, it was close.
It was. They were losing at half.
This was the 1-29 Detroit Mercy Titans leading Oakland at halftime, and I don't think it was Oakland like sleeping or overlooking them. This was a rivalry game.
Yes, mid-major basketball, Oakland and U of D. I know it hasn't been what it has been the last couple of years, But in mid-major, it's a great rivalry.
It is.
In the last couple of years, it's been a little more lopsided than you would like. But you go back 10 years ago, it's a great rivalry between the two of them.
You got like a half hour's distance between the two. You got both fan bases packing the house. It was
full in there that night.
It was like sold out crowd. Senior night. Like
I did sideline. I think you were in the stands.
I was in the stands for sure.
It was a full night. For sure.
It was a spectacular game. I never quite felt that we were going to lose that game because I'm like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
Like you've seen Oakland win close games all year, but like in my heart, I was like, there's no way we lose this one, right?
I love how you mentioned that because, doing sideline, it was me and Elizabeth Coons that were both doing sideline for our different areas. I was obviously with WXOU. So we took turns going up there and listening and everything. And I was a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but a little more willing to go like this.
Yeah, a little more guts.
Yeah, and to get right in Campy's ear. And I remember Blake and Trey, every single huddle I was up there,
they pushed you out the way.
Well, no. That'd be funny if they did.
They shoved you at the bench.
I'd have been like, your turn. You can go up there now. But every single time, Blake and Trey were like, hey, they're going to fold. All we have to do is keep doing what we're doing. Oakland wasn't doing anything wrong.
That's hilarious, by the way.
U of D was just making great shots.
Yeah, they were, man.
Oakland, Trey and Blake were like, this is what we're made for. We're old. We win these close games. This is what we do. Keep it going. Keep your focus defensively. Keep your focus offensively. It's not like they were leaving wide open shots to U of D. No. U of D was making step back threes, off the dribble, off balance jumpers.
They were 9 of 19 from 3.
Yes, they were making tough shots, and Trey and Blake in that huddle every single time. Hey, boys, let's keep it going. We got this. We're good. We know we're down by 4. It's not going to last forever. They cannot keep making these shots all game long, and they didn't.
Yeah, no panic in that huddle from the sound of it, from that veteran leadership.
Yeah, as
Oakland ended up winning that 175.
I'm sure some of the other guys might have been a little more panicked, but Trey and Blake, every single huddle, were laser focused. They took control of that huddle for the first 20, 30 seconds. Then Campy would do his normal drop of play, whatever. But they were adamant that this will not stick. We will win this game.
Yeah, and that they ended up doing to win the Horizon League regular season title outright with a record of 15-5.
Yep.
They were chasing Green Bay and Youngstown State the whole season long, but they ended up outlasting and surviving 15-5 in conference. And that sets up Oakland with the 1 seed for the Horizon League tournament, and that gets them an old foe, that one of the demons that haunt them, one of the ghosts that haunt them from earlier in the season. They were hosting Purdue Fort Wayne for the quarterfinals in the arena.
Yep, and we got to do that game together.
That's right. We did that. Yeah, we did that one for Odyssey, and I did it with a hoarse voice. That wasn't fun.
You destroyed your voice in the women's Horizon League tournament game.
They were playing NKU.
Game that they lost too.
They were playing NKU. Like I was one of the only ones in the stands. Like I could have just not cheered. It's a tournament game.
Yeah, no, it was.
But that bit me in the butt.
It was a great game. Close for a while.
Yeah.
Oakland down the end or down the stretch kind of pulled away. At both halves, they were. My audio just started going. Sorry.
We're professionals here. What are you doing?
They were up by 11 at halftime, but Purdue Fort Wayne kind of came back in that second half a little bit.
They made it close.
They made it close for a while.
Yeah, Oakland kind of kept them at a stiff arm for most of the game, but it came down to single possession at the end of the final minute of the game. It could have happened.
Yeah, that was the game where Kevin was slamming the table, right?
Yeah, Kevin Beers, our wonderful PA announcer, he was furious. He was slamming it, and his ring was hitting the table, so it was extra loud.
And Kevin's a big, strong guy too.
Yeah,
so he was slamming the table, and I'm like,
our computers were shaking. Dude.
And the poor girl on the graphics laptop was like, she was terrified. And here's Kevin, dang it, slamming his hand on the table. I mean, it was funny, but
no one loves Oakland like Kevin.
They had that nice stiff on for a while, and then all of a sudden, here comes Purdue Fort Wayne. A bucket and then a stop, a bucket and then a stop, and all of a sudden that 10, 12-point lead's down to 6, 4.
But the lead got up to 20 in the second half.
Yeah, they really came back.
Yeah, it was. I remember it was It was a last 3-point shot that got it within. I'm scrolling through the play-by-play here. Pardon me, I can't find it. But either way, I know that the game did get close.
It got very good. And then eventually Rocket Watts made a great defensive stop. Heck of a play defensively. And then it forced Purdue Fort Wayne and, the good old classic foul.
Yeah.
Foul, jack up a 3, foul, jack up a 3. that kind of stuff. So they were able to get out of there with the win and then head to Indianapolis.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time,
Yeah.
or what felt like a long time. I think it was 2021 was the last time they made it to Indianapolis, but they ended up getting there against the 7th seed. And I talked about this on the GioMoShow a little bit. The seeding didn't matter for the Horizon League tournament. Once you got to the quarterfinals, once those first round games were played, it was winner take all.
Yep.
Every team from Purdue Fort Wayne all the way to up with us at Oakland, any team could have won that tournament.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what's so great about mid-major, like we talked about at the very beginning. You're picked 6th. Okay. Not a whole lot of people are projecting you to win.
Right.
But never say never. It's not like in the Big Ten where everyone knew U of M was not winning the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think everyone knew Oakland was not, or was not going to win the Horizon League. There was probably a good amount of people that said, you know what, I like Oakland. I like the transfers they brought in. I like how Townsend and Blake are getting, more developed. They're back for another year. They've got a good chance to make it. That's the difference with mid-major and then your Power 6 is those small teams can actually win the tournament.
Definitely. And what's extra special is that it's kind of similar to what NC State was doing for this year in the Final Four, where like they didn't just stumble into the NCAA tournament.
No, they ran through the ACC tournament.
But you had to do that to get into the tournament, and that's what it goes for the Horizon League. If you have to win the tournament, you have to win 3-4 games in a row just to get there.
Yep.
And it's a relatively tougher road than some of the big guys like Michigan State not having the best year.
Sure.
Just kind of waltzed in as a 9th seed, you know? So
Campy talked about it in that one press conference at the beginning of the year. He said, we know that our out of conference is tough. We have 2 goals pretty much in our out of conference schedule. One, make as much money as we can.
Yeah, baby.
Because you want the best transportation, NIL, jerseys, gear, cool stadium. You make as much money as you can. Number 2, you play as tough opponents as you can. Because, granted, here's the thing. Could they schedule Walsh College as a, real opponent? Could they schedule all of these other really, really, really small schools as opponents?
If you pay them enough, yeah.
Yes.
But you're going to have to buy those
You're
games.
not going... Right. And you're not going to learn anything. You're going to win, most likely, and you're not going to be like, okay, where's our weaknesses? You go play Ohio State on the road, Drake, Xavier, Michigan State, Illinois. A lot of close games, and you will learn your weaknesses. And I think that they did.
You're not going to get strong by lifting a 5-pound dumbbell, man.
Exactly.
You got to push the weight a little bit.
Absolutely.
But getting back into this game, the semifinals in the Horizon League tournament, we were against Cleveland State. And this was a game where Golke started to really get his name out there.
Yep.
On national television, they were showing the graphic of 300 some threes taken versus 8 2-pointers taken. Everyone thought it was crazy, but we at Oakland know that's business as usual.
Sure.
Not only for Golke, but for Oakland basketball.
Yeah.
They'll jack up threes. That's normal.
Well, the loss that they had against who was it? They lost in one of their OT. I believe it was Northern Kentucky. They shot 43s. They had a loss earlier this year against one, I believe it might have been Green Bay, but they shot 48 threes that game. I can't imagine Campy was too happy when 60% of your field goals came on 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
But, that just shows you, we know Oakland was going to shoot the 3, and they're not going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, Campy has always lived by the 3, died by the 3. Travis Bader getting the 3-point shooting record he did here. It happens.
Yes.
And in that game against Cleveland State, it did happen for Golke as he... Let me get the stats back up. He led the team in scoring. He made 7 of 14 from the 3-point line. He had a weird layup in the first minute of the game. Or he was trying to cut across by the baseline. It didn't work at all. It's Cleveland State was blocking a lot of shots that game.
Yeah.
They had 6 blocks that game. But other than that, 7 of 14 from 3, 21 points. DQ Cole was right behind him with 20 points himself, 8 of 16 from the floor. But this was a game where the depth was the huge piece.
Yep, absolutely. And then they move on to play Milwaukee in the championship.
Yep. The Panthers that were on an absolute heater at the time. I believe BJ Freeman was 28 points a game in their last 10. Milwaukee was on fire.
And a team that we had beaten twice this year already.
And going into the game I don't know. Can you beat a team 3 times in a season? That's hard to do.
Milwaukee's a good team. It's hard to beat a team twice in a season, let alone 3 times is a lot harder. So it was a game where, when we got matched up against Milwaukee, I was like, I don't love this. It's not that I fear Milwaukee in terms of, what they do offensively, defensively. It was the fact that we beat them twice. Yeah. I was just afraid of, hey, they might have figured us out by now.
They got to learn. They got to learn something in those 2 games. Yeah.
I guess they didn't.
Yeah. But that game was really, really close.
It was.
We were there at WXOU was there. Gavin and Harsh were calling the game. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough to get on the student bus and to watch the game from the student section. That there was no moment of peace during that game.
Yeah.
It was a constant battle within single digit points. I don't think it got farther than 7 points either way throughout the entire game. And it was like, both the student sections were kind of like fighting from across like all the
It felt like a high school it felt like a high school student section fight game.
It was
where we can't hear you and stuff like that. But no, largest lead for Oakland was 7, largest lead for them was 4. I mean, it was both teams had each other within an arm's reach until just down towards the stretch. Oakland just, started making a couple stops, able to squeak out a 7-point lead.
Yeah, and what the biggest thing was Trey Townsend in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
He
unstoppable,
took the team on his back and became solidified in Oakland University history. And not only that, in NCAA history.
Yeah.
He finished that game 38 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists.
14 free throws, worth noting. They could not stop him.
11 of them were made in the second half, too.
Yes, 14
I think he had 28
18.
of his points in the second half.
He shot 18 of our 27 free throws that game. Dude just was unstoppable all over the place. Like, if I'm Trey Townsend, I was booking a chiropractor appointment for putting this team on my back and carrying this team.
I need all the ice you can find.
Yeah, that guy should have immediately booked a chiropractor appointment for throwing that team on his back because no one else was even close to his productivity. Golke 15, Lampman 12, Conway 11, and a couple guys in single digits. But, I mean, his play, everyone else's play. Monumental difference. Notice this gap.
Yeah, and it wasn't like... It was a conscious effort to get Trey the ball in the second half.
Yes.
There can't be talked about it to all the media after that, but when there was that, I forget when the timeout was, but it was like early in the second half, it was both Jack and Blake leading the huddle saying, the ball goes to Trey.
Yep.
That was the plan because they figured out that he couldn't be stopped. It was a step back jumper or it was a quick flip move inside to get the layup. He was making his free throws too. Mm-hmm. He was one of our best free throw shooters on the team. Yeah. It was all Townsend.
Yeah.
In the NCAA history that was made is that in the past 15 years, nobody had 35, 10 plus, and I think and 5 plus assists in any postseason game. Not just NCAA tournament, but in any conference tournament.
Sure, yeah.
Only player to do it since Kevin Durant in 07, too.
Wow.
07 or 08, I can't remember for Texas. But he made history during that game to get Oakland their ticket punched to the NCAA tournament.
Sure.
And now we'll finally talk about the NCAA tournament.
Yes. Well, do we want to do our top 3 right now?
Let's do our top 3 here.
Let's do our top 3.
We'll do our let's do our top 3 moments of the season. Now, this is something that we could take any way that we decide to do, either personally, or we'll do our podium. Who gets what moment gets the bronze, the silver, and the gold?
So we'll do a season podium.
Yeah,
and then it's like you said, it's a very diverse thing. We took this as a very open. It can be a game, a moment, a player, anything. So we'll do bronze, silver, gold. You want me to start? Or you want to start?
Yeah, we'll start with both our bronzes.
Okay. So for my bronze is senior night. So obviously I did both the games on senior night. You guys can check out both of those on the YouTube. Both of the streams should be on there as well as the interviews.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to do the play-by-play for the women's, and then you joined me on that one. You were able to get back from your trip in time.
Yeah.
Yep. Come join me on that one. So that was a lot of fun. They did lose to IUPUI, but it was a great game. We had a lot of fun with it. We were very energetic.
Yeah.
And, even though we were down 21, when Linda Van Schaik made a 3, I'm like, and Van Schaik for a 3! Just started going nuts. It was great. It was a fun time.
Had fun while we could, yeah.
Yeah, we had a good time on that one. The senior night ceremonies was very cool watching that. And then we shift over to the men's game later that night. I just kind of stayed here in the stadium. And that one was really special for me not just because, I'm calling the game and everything, and I got to do sideline that night, but my family was there. My family came out to watch me. My mom, my dad, my brother, my brother's girlfriend, and my girlfriend were all there to watch that one. So that was really special for me to get to, have them come out and watch me. I got to do a sideline for that one. So it was a lot of fun to do that. Elizabeth Coombs was the other one, and so she let me go up a couple times.
Yeah.
Like I talked about, Blake taking, initiative and everything, got to experience that. Harj and Gavin were on the call for that one that night. I got to do a lot more bits than normal just because of how close of a game it was. Usually, we only do a bit or two.
Yeah, a couple of hits.
Yeah, and Gavin and Harj were like, you can't be saying anything, And I was like, he did. They're like, you want to do a bit? I was like, yes. So I got to do a lot more in that one. It was just a really, really cool and special game for me. So that one gets my bronze.
Yeah, for me, mine was kind of spread throughout the season, but I would say for me, being in the stands and like going to the home games, like on the rare occasion I wasn't working the games,
sure,
being able to kind of help lead the student section, and I'm being bold and selfish by saying that, but
yeah,
whether women's games included, but like to be there and to feel the crowd kind of grow gradually as the season went on, as Oakland like started to look like the real deal, to see the crowd in the student section start to fill up, especially towards the end of the season. It like I let it all out, man. This is my senior year. I had to make sure to get it all out of my system, and to try and help build the sports culture around here on campus. That
definitely
to watch the attention to sports grow, I would say it was my bronze medal for this season. So what you got for silver?
Silver is Trey Townsend's season. I mean, we've talked about it so much already in this episode. Everything he did. I mean, Mr. Oakland, as they call him, his father went here, his mother. Everything he did this season gets my silver. All the points, his insane performances, the history he made, both in the tournament, both tournaments, the regular season, his effort every single game, his drive, the way that he's just transformed his body, especially even to this season, to be so strong, so physical.
To see the picture of him from freshman year to now senior year.
His game that he's expanded to be able to shoot as well, put the ball on the floor. Townsend gets my silver.
For me, my silver, I would say Blake Landman gets my silver for this one. To kind of go with both of the veterans here, because the big story for this season, for as far as Blake goes, he almost didn't play. He was almost redshirted and injured, and never would have seen this season. And I don't think Oakland would have gotten to this point in their season, gotten to the heights that they did without him, because Campy says he knows the zone better than he does.
Yeah,
that Blake, 5 years with the Golden Grizzlies, on just a random suggestion by Travis Bader to say, like, this kid's the new me.
Yeah.
It was a simple phone call that Campy got, said, hey, let this kid play. And he was just a walk-on from, locally from Hazlet, Michigan, and ended up being a huge cornerstone piece, a leader for this team, and it almost didn't happen.
Yeah.
And he ended up playing the most of the Horizon League regular season. He ended up being second team All Horizon League.
Yeah.
He was one of the top 3 in 3-point shooters, in 3 points per game, in percentage. Like him and as well as Golke were 2 of the top 3 3-point shooters in the entire Horizon League. So him being able to have his senior year and to make that big impact is my silver medal.
Yeah. Blake was awesome to interview this year too.
Oh, he's such a
great person,
class act,
great kid. Awesome to
the whole
to
team
be around.
was, honestly.
Yeah. Blake was. I mean, he was so thankful to us and everything. I loved getting to talk with him. And you talk about the Travis Bader thing. Let's not forget how Coach has openly admitted that on the first week of practice, he forgot Blake's name multiple times. He kept having to ask his assistant, "Hey, what's that kid's name over there?" But he said after the first 2 weeks of practice, that kid was working harder than the seniors were. Everybody else, and Campy had told him when he walked on, hey, we're going to Greece for our trip. You're not coming. 2 weeks into practice, brings him in his office, says, hey, you want to come to Greece? Openly asked him to come into Greece.
I love that story.
Yeah.
So he got to go to Greece and Italy.
Yes. Yeah. Blake is awesome.
Man, we didn't even talk about the Italy trip.
No.
But yeah, they went there in August. I was in Sicily during the same time. I thought I'd run into them, but they were up in the north. But anyway, so we got our silver, we got our bronzes, we got our silvers. What's the gold moment of the season?
Gold for me, it's kind of a little bit of a collection, but it's winning the Horizon League for the first time in team history outright, winning the tournament, and then making March Madness.
That entire
basically
postseason,
just those 3 like win ideas there, just kind of making March Madness. But then the reasons we made March Madness, that's my gold. I think it's kind of easy for me.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me, and then everything that went along with March Madness, it's great. It's just March Madness, everything that came with it itself is my gold. It's an easy one for me.
Yeah, definitely. Same thing for me, a little bit of a different twist. So like my bronze was being able to be at the home games, but I would say my gold, and this is kind of also lumped in with just the fact that we got to all the postseason stuff we did. But I was able to go and I was able to host a watch party here in the Habitat for that Cleveland State game in the semifinals. But I was able to go to Indiana, as I mentioned, for the championship game.
Yep.
I was able to go to Pittsburgh for both the Kentucky and the NC State game, courtesy of OSI. Thank you very much to everyone that made that happen with those student buses. But to go from seeing the crowd and seeing the place in the arena filled and loud to seeing the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, that same energy multiply tenfold.
Yeah.
To feel that energy, to be with students, and to see the alumni that, we took over that stadium twice.
It was awesome. And then we
took over.
Yeah, we'll get into, because I obviously wasn't with you guys.
Yeah. You went on your own.
I went on my own. So my brother doesn't go to Oakland quite yet. He'll be here next year. He's going to be with our staff. He'll be here in the fall, WXOU. But the bus was students only. So he wanted to go. So me and him were like, we're just going to buy the cheapest tickets possible. We're going to go. And
just
I got
to get in the place.
Just to get in the place, yeah. And I got stories that we'll get into when we get into the Kentucky game. But, we were up in that upper deck, and we put everyone else on our backs and carried that upper deck to make sure we were supporting Oakland. But should we get into the Kentucky game now?
I think so.
Let me ask you first this. What was your thoughts because you were here for the watch party, correct?
Yes.
Yes? What was your thoughts when we got matched up against Kentucky?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't in the watch party at the arena. Either way, when I saw the matchup, little hesitation, little apprehension because but it was more of a because the goal of mid-major basketball is to get there. To win anything is all completely extra, cherry on top kind of stuff.
Sure.
So when I saw Kentucky, I was like, okay, this is the big boys. This is March Madness.
Yeah.
It's like you want to get there so bad. Well, here you go.
Yeah. For me, I was working on homework in my room. I had the selection show on my TV.
Yeah.
I was watching it, and it was weird how it worked. I was working on an assignment, and then I hear the 3 seed Kentucky. I turn to the TV. I'm like, that one's in Pittsburgh. That'd be really, really nice if we got matched up in there because I knew enough about Kentucky. I'll get into that in a minute, but I was like, that'd be really nice. So then all of a sudden, whoop, there goes Oakland. I'm like, sweet, it's close. I can go because we were projected to be in Omaha. And I was not going to be able to go to Omaha.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
The bus ride to Omaha has got to be, 10, 12 hours roughly on a bus?
I wouldn't know. I ain't going on that bus.
Yeah, you're not going to fly to Omaha. There's not a whole lot of flights from here that go into Omaha. It's an expensive plane ticket. So that one's not going to happen. So I was happy we got Pittsburgh. And then I started thinking about, Kentucky. And the reason I was happy about it is not because Kentucky's a bad team. Kentucky has phenomenal players in Wagner, Reeves, Dillingham, Shepard, insane players, 5 stars. They're going to be NBA players. They're a great team. The reason is because they're a blue blood, and blue bloods get upset, at least especially the last 10 years, they get upset quite often in March Madness.
Yeah.
We've seen Kentucky, Duke, those two more so than the rest get upset a lot in March Madness last 10 years. The big one that comes to mind for me is that Duke and Lehigh game. The mighty Duke gets taken down by Lehigh. So it was definitely one to where I was kind of pulling a little more for Kentucky because I thought we had a better chance to beat a team like Kentucky than one of those, other 4 or 5 seeds.
Yeah, pulling for getting Kentucky as the matchup.
Yes. Yeah. I thought we had a better chance to beat them than one of those 4 or 5 seeds that, was on a bit of a better season.
Yeah.
And, aren't a blue blood, aren't known to be upset. I want the team that's known to be upset.
Yeah, and I guess you could kind of put it into numbers where they're there so often, so naturally they have a bigger chance to be upset. But especially Kentucky with St. Peter's, or was it St. Peter's, the Peacocks?
Yeah, I believe so.
Ago?
Yep.
So
they missed it last year. They didn't make it last year. So year before that, they got bounced by, I believe they were a 2 seed a couple years ago.
Or
was it 2-4, something like that? But once again, they got bounced first round, and that's why I was pulling for this.
Yeah. And for me, once I started kind of going into the matchup, I did a reaction, I did a GioMoShow preview, right after it, and I was kind of looking through the stats and trying to figure out what Kentucky is, and I saw that they're the second best scoring team in the country. I was like, oh boy,
they can put points up.
Yeah, but I also saw that they give up a lot of points too.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at the matchup, I'm like, okay, a glass cannon? I would like that a lot more than a team like Houston that like strangles you, holds you to 50.
Yes.
Because like my thoughts of the matchup was if you can hinder their offense a little bit. Oakland's got a strong defense and a very unique one that's hard to learn in just a few days.
Sure.
And you don't play like you're in the Horizon League.
Right.
So if we can at least cause some confusion in that sense, slow them down a little bit, then that allowing our offense to breathe could keep us in this game.
Sure.
And I also learned that they were terrible 3-point defense.
Yeah.
And that got figured out real quick.
Yeah. And the other thing with Kentucky is it's no mystery Oakland is on the disadvantage with size.
Yeah.
A shorter team. Granted, they're a strong team.
Yeah.
But they are definitely a shorter team.
I know.
Kentucky, big guys, tall guys.
They got 3 7-footers on the roster.
Yes.
Like, looking at it, it was
but
like,
those 3 7-footers, not offensive weapons. Most of their production comes from Wagner, Reeves, Dillingham, and Shepard, all guards. So for me, I'm looking at it deeper, and I'm like, where are we going to find production? Where are they going to look to find production? I was like, okay, they're probably going to look to go in the paint, try and take advantage of, Conway, Trey, Baru, but at the same time, those aren't their guys that score. They score with their guards, and we've got some good guards here and some good defense, and our zone is really, really good against guards in that match zone when we're able to get lined up and those on-ball screens take place, and you're basically switching guard on guard. Your forwards can stay down low, not get matched up, and you work them around the perimeter and just inside the perimeter. It's guard on guard the whole time. It's almost like a man at that point. It's kind of like a man. Where it does get a little exploited is those baselines when you get people moving on the baselines and then the corner threes. Oakland did a really, really good job in that game with the matchup zone for the most part. But Kentucky, I was happy that they got matched up against. I shouldn't say I was happy. Yeah. I was okay with it.
Yeah, I was really starting to warm up to it, and especially like going through Twitter, like looking at Kentucky Barstool. I was like, they're scared. I could tell that they were scared.
Yes.
I went on a Kentucky podcast because they found me and they wanted to see what Oakland's all about, and I told them that we were doing game predictions, score predictions. I said, and there's tape. Go on my social media and you'll find it.
Didn't you get it like 2 points off or something?
1 point off.
1 point off.
I said Oakland 80-77.
Yeah.
Goalkey MVP.
There you go.
There's tape and there's footage. You guys, the Rup to No Good podcast. I gave it to them, and after the game, they DM'd me and said, "With all congratulations, but with all the love in the world, F y'all."
Yeah.
And they never messaged me again.
Yeah, no. I mean, we can get into the game a little bit.
Yeah,
now
let's get into the game.
So obviously, I said I was in the upper deck.
Yeah.
Me and my brother were there, and my brother is a bigger guy, loud guy, he's very tall, and I'm loudest myself, and I can get rowdy.
Hell yeah.
And everyone around us, no one. I couldn't see anyone in eyesight on the upper deck that was wearing Oakland gear.
Dude, it was all blue in there.
It was a lot of us wasn't blue. It was a lot of Duquesne and Pitt. So local people that just came out to check it out.
Okay,
so
a little more neutral.
Yeah, a little NC State, farther down, but a lot of just hometown people wanting to come and check it out, and they're just cracking up every single play. Me and my brother we're standing up, we're going nuts. Every time Goalkey shot a three, I went like this. I'm like, bang! And I'm like putting them down and everything. Oh, it was great. We're going crazy. People are laughing at us. There's like these high school, college kids about 5 rows up to our right.
They're loving it.
They're like, yeah, boys, let's go. They're turning us up.
So you're winning them over.
Oh, yeah. Oh, people were laughing, loving us. And then, so in like the second half, this is probably one of my favorite memories from this game. In the second half, Kentucky went on a little bit of run there. They got the lead. They're the Big Blue Nation, as they call it.
Yeah.
Got loud. They got up. I stand up. I go, hey, quiet down now. And I start fanning everyone all around me. I'm like, hey, quiet down now. And so my brother, he's like, sit down. He rips me back in the chair. He's like, this might be the time when we start getting blown out. Because I want to say, part of this game, I was waiting for Oakland to.
I was too.
I was waiting for them to go on a little stretch of where they just kind of came out flat, but it never happened. So he rips me down to my seat, and he's like, stop it. We're probably going to get blown out right here.
Don't jinx us.
Yeah. And so what happens? 3 seconds later, Goalkey, another 3. We both stand right back up. We're like, yeah. I turn around to all the Kentucky fans around me, and I'm like, shh. It was great.
You're a freaking maniac.
Oh, people were cracking up, loving it. So many people were asking us to like, does he usually shoot like that? I'm like, he sure does.
Yes, he does.
10 out of 18 or whatever it was.
10 to 20.
10 to 20. Not that usually. Usually it's, 6 to 14, something around there. Is he making 10 out of 20, most games? No. But is he capable every game? Yes. But no, getting into that game, they came out well. Oakland came out well. They matched Kentucky the whole game. The first half, they're up. Both teams came out flat. Oakland, I believe, started 1 of 12 overall until Rocket Watts got the first field goal of the game.
I'm not totally sure, but it was definitely a flat start.
Yeah, it was for both teams. Yeah. Kentucky wasn't making anything. Oakland for the first good while was out rebounding Kentucky at a substantial margin. They had that one offensive sequence where they had 4 offensive rebounds and 5 shots overall. Missed all of them, unfortunately, but they were there to play.
Yeah, they were dragging them down in the mud.
Yes, and Kentucky, I think, was caught off guard. Now, some of the guys for Kentucky had insane games. Antonio Reeves was phenomenal. Dillingham was great. Reeves, that's what you expect. And then Mitchell, Edwards were good too. But Oakland zone, I thought that they should have made adjustments. Even though they won, looking back, a lot of Kentucky's buckets came off of threes and baseline. Because when in that matchup zone, when you take it in and you take it into the zone, people collapse. And if everyone's not collapsing and rotating in unison and perfectly, it opens up backdoor cuts. And we know John Calipari, the great coach he is, he noticed that. You saw many times where Mitchell and Edwards running backdoor cuts, and then Dillingham or Reeves taking it in, dishing it on the backdoor, easy layup. But the thing was, I don't know if Oakland, I think that they didn't think that they had to make the changes because they always matched them.
Yeah.
They always went down and scored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
courtesy of Jack Golke for the most part.
Kept climbing up with them.
Exactly. So I think if it was the different scenario, like if Oakland wasn't able to match them offensively, I think you might have seen maybe Campy go to a man or something to prevent some of those cuts and those open threes in the corner, but they never needed to because they matched them the whole time.
Right. Yeah, so it was kind of like don't I could see the philosophy of okay, we're it's working, let's not screw it up, but let's kind of stay the course here.
Yep. And I think that they were just, I don't know why they never switched, because I think that if they did go to a man, they probably could have won this game by a lot more, because that zone definitely gave Kentucky had fits with it at the beginning, but especially in that second half, they started to crack open that zone, and you saw a pretty high scoring second half, 42-41 overall between the 2 points. Kentucky had their way with that zone in the second half, and Oakland just had their way with Kentucky offensively. Kentucky was finding open threes left and right in the second half. Yeah. Granted, they missed a lot of them, but they found open shots.
Definitely, and it ended up being enough for Oakland to make history and to defeat the Kentucky Wildcats by a final score. That was so close, dude.
Yeah.
80-76.
It was nerve-wracking, and we missed free throw shooting for us.
Oh, my God. Oh, both sides.
Game.
It was terrible.
Oh, it was absolutely brutal, especially for us. Less than 50%.
Yeah.
We were 15 of 31 from free throws. And that's why when Kentucky started fouling, we missed some of those free throws. I was like, this isn't great.
The fouling's
this
working.
Isn't going good. The fouling's working for them, yeah. They have a better chance of fouling us than us missing free throws at this point than we do of shooting a normal shot.
Yeah, it was just like the whole game. It was similar to that Milwaukee game. In the Horizon League Championship, it was just close throughout, and I was kind of sitting like your brother was kind of mentioning, you didn't know when one not scoring possession
was going to spark something.
Yeah, because they were obviously very capable of it, and you're just kind of hoping that when if you can hold it down for long enough before they spring back up. It ended up being that way, and Oakland was able to hold it down on prime time. And that's a thing, on prime time.
It was great.
7 o'clock on CBS. No streaming, no nothing. No. Regular old CBS.
It's great. And everything that's come to this university because of that game has been awesome.
It's been everything I've wanted for this
Have you
school.
walked to the gear shop recently?
I've walked near it. It's loaded.
It's a lot of stuff is gone.
Yeah. Before, but they were restocking. And that place was moving.
Yeah, it was turnover in there for inventory was insane because of all the orders that came in from here, from like the Louisville area. I want to know what's going to happen with that.
$8,000 of shirts to Louisville. I love it.
I think the whole Louisville student body is going to show up in Oakland gear when Kentucky plays in their building next year.
Oh my God,
it's going to be great. But it was a great game. Gohlke, I mean, you could not go on sports social media for a good 48, 72 hours without seeing Jack Gohlke.
Oh my God.
The dude was the face of March Madness. I think now it's kind of shifted to GJ Burns a little bit.
Yeah.
But Jack Gohlke for the first 72 hours of March Madness was the face of madness. He was insane.
Madness.
Yes. Jack Gohlke was March Madness.
And it's what's funny about it is like, yes, he was the star and he deserved all of it. It was spectacular. But Trey had a 17-point double in that game, and it just kind of flew under the radar. Which, like,
I guess that's what happens when you shoot 10 3-pointers and make them. It was hilarious watching it. And like, I went that night in the hotel. Me and my brother were watching highlights because we were just so pumped about it.
Dude, I was staring at it the whole bus ride.
We're watching the highlights, and we're like laughing because I'm like, nobody on planet, not even Steph Curry, has any business taking these 3-point shots.
Like, normally they're terrible shots.
No, he's fading sideways, off balance, kicking legs around like a kangaroo. He has no business taking these, and yet they're going in. I was like, what is happening? And if you listen to the commentary from the play-by-play and the color, it's hilarious.
They couldn't believe it.
No, you watch John Calipari every time he throws his hands up in the air, he's throwing his play sheet. It's hilarious. He's like, are you kidding me? It's awesome. The one where Gohlke shoots his ninth, where he makes his ninth one.
Yeah.
It's my favorite one. So he comes off a ball screen, or an off-ball screen, comes around, gets a handoff from, I can't remember whoever it was. It might have been DQ Cole.
Okay.
Gets a handoff from DQ Cole, and the commentator goes, Gohlke will shoot a 3. And then the color guy goes, what? And then he does. And then he makes it, because it's a terrible shot. No one on planet Earth should ever take that shot. He goes, Gohlke will shoot a 3. Gohlke fading, does whatever that is.
Do whatever, like, twisting his hands or whatever.
And then the commentator's probably going to say, like, what is he doing? You just hear, what? And then it goes in, and then the play-by-play goes, his 9th 3. And I'm like, that's freaking great. I'm like, the fact that the color guy was going to say, what is he doing? And then his 9th, it was, it's my favorite call of the game. It's great. It's hilarious.
It was awesome. Hearing Neil Rule on the call as well was sweet. Hearing the highlights afterwards. He does a fantastic job. So Oakland moves on to the round of 32. And who did they face? The other tournament darling in DJ Burns and the NC State Wolfpack. This one was going to be an interesting game. This one was going to be an entertaining game, no matter who won. And I was ready for it to just like listen. This is absolutely extra credit at this point. But the game ended still in a way that still stings.
Yeah, no,
I thought Oakland, I would be okay with it.
Yeah, Oakland, that game, they didn't play bad. But they definitely didn't play their best basketball. They didn't play Golden Grizzly basketball. This game specifically, I thought they should have gone off of the zone, the matchup zone. So one of the weaknesses for those that don't understand a matchup zone is you can get mismatches because you switch a lot. And in your traditional 2-3 zone, you have your 2 here and you have your 3 here. And so everyone is responsible for their zone. Mm-hmm. Guy here is not going to move up and over. He's not going to circle around. In the matchup zone, you do. You rotate as, depending on how that zone works and what, the offense is doing. Multiple times you saw a guard, because of the rotation, get matched up on DJ Burns. Mm-hmm. All day long, DJ Burns is going to score against DQ Cole, Rocket Watts, Blake Lampman, and it's not a knock on them. It's no disrespect to them. It's just the fact that DJ Burns is huge. He's good, and he's going to take that matchup all day long.
He is. There was NC State, like Barstool or whatever. They were posting pictures of like, or I don't even know who. Like, I don't know who it was, but it was all the pictures of like all of our players like wincing and like basically like the terror on their face, like going against Burns. The highlight of Blake being thrown to the side, like it was embarrassing. Like it's hilarious looking back on it because it's just like. There's nothing you could do, but like, man, it was embarrassing.
Yeah, I was at
credit to NC State, man.
I was at one of my coworkers had a party that night.
Yeah.
And so we were all there and everything, watching the game, and they have a sick basement. They have this retro arcade machine that they've like turned into a TV by like this little bar sitter. So it was really cool watching that on that thing. But I'm watching the game, and I'm like, man, I'm texting my brother. I'm like, dude, they've got to go to a zone because every single time down the floor, DJ Burns is Burns or Middlebrook, Middlebrook's a great player too, is getting a mismatch on one of our guards and they're scoring. It's almost like inevitable at this point. And I think if they would have went to a zone, they could have won the game. Because if you can keep Chris Conway or Baru or Trey on DJ Burns all game long, I don't think he scores 24 points.
He's going to score some, but
he's going to score some.
You can lower,
but you can lower that, and you can because we also saw a good amount of times where a forward or a center in Conway got matched up on some of the players, some of the guards for the Wolfpack, and like O'Connell and Horn. Mm-hmm. I mean, DJ Horn down the stretch had a huge 3-pointer that
only one of the game.
Effectively, yeah. And so they really should have gone to a zone. And I want to get into some of like that last minute, and even the overtime of the game, because that last 6 minutes was one of the worst. I mean, it's respectfully.
Yeah.
It was one of the worst 6 minutes for Oakland Grizzly basketball this year, I think. It's just they could not find their footing, man.
No, it was. I don't know if it was a matter of like running out of gas because like the season's been so long at this point, but like it was like it was tough.
Yeah,
being there and watching it, like you could see it slipping away. It was rough,
and it was so with about 2 minutes left. I believe it was actually 3. Blake Lampman, it's that matchup zone.
And this is in overtime, right?
This is with regulation. So in regulation right now, 3 minutes left. With under 3 minutes left, there was 3 times that Blake Lampman was out at the front of that zone, and then over pursued and gave up a drive to the basket. And then a couple of the times it was an easy layup. A couple of the times it was a handoff to Burns for an easy bucket for him. Mm-hmm. So Blake had a couple of those. The biggest one though, at 55.6 seconds left, Lampman over pursues, gets beat off the dribble by O'Connell. O'Connell takes it down the lane, puts up a layup, gets fouled by Trey. Now what? NC State's up by 2. And so that play was just brutal because it was down in the shot clock. Blake did not need to over pursue and jump the crossover. He does. O'Connell goes right around him, literally just breezes by him.
Yeah.
Trey comes over on help side. He's late. He fouls. It's an and one. O'Connell makes the free throw. NC State's up by 2 now.
And that kind of broke it open.
Yep. And here's the thing. And they were down by 1 going to that 3-point play. They were up by 2 now. If Oakland makes the stop there, scores one more time down the floor, it's foul situation for NC State. They could win the game.
Yeah.
And they didn't get the chance because of that. Blake, a fifth-year guy, you want to see him just hold your feet. So stay at the center, hold your feet, don't over pursue. And unfortunately, I think that he was wanting to make the play. Yeah. It's not a knock on him. Blake's a tremendous player.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, that was a play. It's a very defining play in that. They go down and score. They tie it up. It's 66 all. NC State's got a chance to win it. Mm-hmm. Oakland has a phenomenal defensive set. They rotated well. They switched off well. They got back in alignment well. We saw DQ Cole get matched up on Burns. Chris Conway very quickly switched that. He got back on Burns, forced Burns into a tough shot. Trey came with the help side D. Mm-hmm. It was a great stop. Oakland takes the ball up the floor, call timeout. They take their time. Yep. Campy draws up a play. And I think that we are both going to kind of agree on the play call. I don't know if it was... I don't think that what happened was the play call.
It wasn't. I don't think so.
No, because... So they get that play call. They get the ball to Rocket Watts. Rocket Watts brings it up. He takes it down to about 12, 10. Then he starts going. First mistake is Rocket Watts took it into the boundary. He's already on the sideline. He takes it deeper into the sideline and allows that NC State defender to cut him off. Chris Conway, I don't think Conway was supposed to be involved in this play. I think he just recognized, and if he was, we can get into that. Conway comes all the way down from below the free throw line, all the way out to get the ball from Rocket. Mm-hmm. Because Rocket took it deep into the boundary and was cut off, Conway has to come way out so that Rocket can get a pass out to him without it being deflected.
Yeah.
Trey, I don't think has recognized this because he was setting a screen for Golke on the play. Trey comes out to the to the elbow. Chris turns, throws it down to Trey. Trey's not ready for it. When Chris throws that ball, Trey's not even looking.
Yeah.
By the time he turns around, that ball is pretty much here, and it's going right by him. And then, boom, it goes out of bounds.
And it ultimately leads
to overtime.
Yeah.
What should have happened is the second Rocket Watts took that ball into the boundary, Oakland had a timeout, bam, you call your final timeout, and you draw something else up. Because I do think that they were trying to get the ball to Trey on the block. You either get a foul, he misses it, or he makes it, you go to OT.
Yeah, you give it to anybody, you're going to give it to Trey.
Yep, he was having a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Give it to Trey. You let him, your best player, try and win this game. What they should have done and what they have been doing all game is that they had been having their guard out at the top of the arc. They've been running a couple off-ball screens, rotating left, and then you feed it down to Trey on the block. That's what they should have done. They instead tried to basically sweep it around, assuming that Conway was supposed to get it and then was supposed to get it back down to Trey. They attempted to sweep it around, but that play was way too long developing because by the time Trey got it on the elbow, there's only 4 seconds left. He doesn't have time to back him down, run a post move, and get it up.
Yeah.
So I just think that was a broken play, and the defining moment was when Rocket took the ball to the boundary. You had to call timeout.
Yeah.
You had to call timeout and change it up.
Yeah, it's just the final moment of the season, and it just ended up being because listen, at the end of the day, NC State's in the Final Four. It was a good team. They're a team that it's a fire that hasn't stopped burning yet.
No, it hasn't.
Ever since their tie game with Louisville in the ACC tournament, like it's a good team to lose to, and it's not. It stings. I mean, I walked out of the arena and I was at peace with the season.
Yeah.
Trying to, holding back a little bit.
Made it. How many teams can say that they made it and beat Kentucky? And then, we can get into overtime here quickly. So, Golke shoots a 3 with about 4 minutes left, and I'm okay with Jack Golke shooting threes all day long. This one, though, he was incredibly off balance, and we know he can make the off balance ones, but
you don't want to
you're always better on balance. It was a great screen set. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Trey set him the screen. Golke had plenty of time. One dribble, square up your shoulders, square your feet, knock it down. If you give Jack Golke time to square himself, he's making it.
Yeah.
Instead, he catches it, fading back, shoots it, it misses. Now, that's not the play that defines overtime or anything like that, but it would have been nice for him to make that, and I think he had the time to square up and shoot that. And then they go down a minute later, and OU gives up a 2 to Burns. And this one, they just didn't get matched up. They were too late to get into their zone and get set. It's a drive by DJ Horn, feeds it off to Burns. Burns lays it up easy. Now they're up by 1. And then there's a 3-pointer a couple minutes later that gives, or not even a couple minutes, a minute later, gives NC State a win. And this one was, this is the...
Or gets in the lead,
Yeah. Well, they're already in the lead.
Or excuse me, yes.
This is the one where I talk about matchup zones opening up the corners. This is exactly what happens because Chris Conway is down low guarding DJ Burns. I believe it was Horn in the corner, open for 3. Conway has to come all the way from the block, close out on him. Well, guess what? DJ Burns is now underneath the basket, wide open, free balling, like just chilling.
Yeah.
No one else rotates in front of him. Lampman and I believe it was Lampman or DQ Cole, one of those guys, one of the guards, rotates to try and get in front of Burns. Not early enough because they're all the way out at the arc.
Yeah.
So DJ Burns is chilling underneath the basket like, it's a Saturday vacation.
Yeah.
That's the one where Horn hits the front of the rim, bounces right into Burns' hand.
Right in his hands, dude.
Here's the thing. You run a man. Let's say Horn still gets that open 3. Chris Conway is still on DJ Burns, boxing him out. That ball goes right into Chris Conway's hands.
Yeah.
So, and it's Trey is on the opposite block. He can't leave that block and come over to Burns because then his man's not being boxed out. The guards have to come all the way from the 3-point arc, come down, try and box out Burns. They're just not there in time. I mean, you can't come around a guy and box him out. He's boxing you out.
Right.
So it was just the matchup zone got exploited in overtime very easily because they had open 3, easy 2, easy 2. They got mismatches. It just wasn't a good thing. And, the next possession, OU turns it over. It's the bad pass where Townsend tries to dive on the ball, save it. He's out of bounds. It wasn't good. And then offensively, I thought that they should have put in, they should have left Rocket in for defense. I think that they were putting Blake in to try and get the offense.
Yeah.
But like Blake did in the final minutes of regulation, he had a couple just I think that he was just trying to make a play.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he didn't. Not a knock on Blake. I respect the guy. He's awesome.
Of course.
But just he didn't make the play that he was looking for. Caused guard to go by him. And then you got one guy guarding two guys. 1 on two's going to win every time.
Yeah.
And so the next 2 possessions, NC State has easy buckets, just exploiting the zone, and they end up winning the game.
Yeah, final score for that game, it just still stings just a little bit. 73-79, lost in overtime to NC State. They are now in the Final Four, so it helps a little bit. But I was, like I mentioned before, I was at peace with the game afterwards because we made it, and it was just such a magic carpet ride the whole way. But I kept looking at I couldn't look at social media. Seeing DJ Burns, it hurt too much. It hurt my heart.
The hardest part for me on this one is the fact that now, did NC State beat us? Technically, yes.
Yeah.
But Oakland, I think, beat themselves a little more than NC State beat us because you had guys trying to make that play, the play, the game changer one, a little too much, and they didn't adjust. You look at any team that's great. You look at any team, any sport. You can go across any sport. I don't care if it's soccer, cricket, baseball, volleyball, basketball. Look at anything. Teams adjust. Great teams make adjustments. They shift. They mold to who they're playing and where they can exploit. Oakland didn't do that this game. Those final 2 buckets I mentioned, both of them wide open threes on the corner because the guards and the other people were condensed in the center. You had people making cuts, off-ball screens. They get to the corners, wide open 3. You're either bringing your guard from all the way at the top of the arc over to close out, or your forward from down the block to close out. It's a wide open 3, and either way you bring one of those 2 players. 1, they're not getting there in time. Number 2, you're leaving someone else open. Yeah. So I do think they should have looked to a man or maybe a 2-3 zone, not a matchup zone, but. I'm not the one getting paid to be the coach.
Exactly.
So my opinion doesn't matter a whole lot.
Maybe in 40 years you can.
Yeah, exactly.
of coaching Oakland basketball, it's something that can't be said that he's frustrated with in terms of the play calling. It's something that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life.
He mentioned that in the press, like you said.
And it's tough. It's a tough way to go when you feel like you had the chance, and especially with the run that NC State has had, you felt like it could have been you. You felt like you could have beat Marquette and gone to the Elite Eight, and there's always going to be that part of it.
Yeah.
But
the Shaka Smart curse, you could have helped that one, and you've been there for that. But I'm still happy.
We're still absolutely you look past that and you zoom out and you look at it in totality. This was an amazing season.
Yeah. We want to do our top 3 biggest games then, and then we'll close with that.
Yeah, we'll close out with top 3 biggest games. Obviously, the March Madness games are going to be near the top there. Yeah. But we'll look beyond that for some of our games.
For this, we're going to do top 3 regular season games.
We'll focus on the regular season. Post game speaks for itself. Speaks for itself.
Yeah, just like our podium, it's a diverse segment. I took mine as regular season defining games, stuff that gave the team momentum, helped them realize that they're a team that can win. That's the way I took mine. I'm not sure how you did yours, but
sure.
Do you want me to start? Or you want to start?
Oh yeah, you go ahead.
Start at 3.
Yep.
Assuming? Okay, so
we'll trade 3s.
My number 3 most defining game is the win against Xavier, 78-76. This is a game that we talked about it. Xavier's a great team. They're a tournament team very often. They have a lot of good players, big recruits, a lot of big transfers. So for us to go into that game that we're being played to come to, win that game, I think that just interjected this team with confidence after they had lost a couple heartbreakers to some Big Ten opponents where they hung around for a while. They had lost to Drake. This was a game that helped this team, I think. If they didn't win this game, I'm not sure if they win the Horizon League. This game, the amount of confidence I think that this team got from this game is just to a level that we can't verbalize, because I think that helped them really, really realize they are good, they can be great, and we saw them be great this year. So that is my number 3 biggest game.
For me, it's not that I don't think the Xavier game is my number 3. I'll just trying to pick a different one here, but for me, I would say, and to kind of group them together, the Cayman Islands Classic.
Yeah,
the way that they, right before the Xavier game, to be able to win 2 of the 3, and we were talking about it before. As we were going through the whole season, but just to show the depth of the team and to show that it's not going to be like the Bahamas trip last year where it ended up spilling over into the next games and being like a loss that turned into 2, 3, 4. This one, you got your wins, you got your big like depth pieces showing up and doing their thing. I think that was even a precursor to that Xavier game. Helps get that momentum going into that Xavier game to get them going and to prove that they're a high-level team.
Yeah. For number 2, I have the second game win against Youngstown State. First or second one?
Yeah, at home.
Second one. Yep, second one we were at home.
All right.
The Youngstown State one. For a second, I was like, do I have the first? No. This is the second one. The second one, because I know we talked about it a little bit, so I'll make it quick, but that was the game where we're coming off the road. We just beat IUPUI. Trey is sick. Chris is getting over his sickness still. Yeah. We're missing some key guys in terms of, their level of productivity in terms of what they're going to be able to do. Everyone played, but those guys, obviously, they're not going to be what they usually are. That's a game where we won with defense. We talked about how we can win with offense and defense. That was a defensive game. It kind of put the rest of the league on notice. I think it also helped the team realize, hey, we can beat teams either way. We just beat the number 2 Horizon League team defensively after less than a couple weeks ago. We beat them offensively. It shows how diverse they are and how they can adapt. It was a great game for Chris and DQ and Blake. So that's why I've got that one as my number 2.
For me, I got my number 2 being the Detroit Mercy game at home.
Oh, because senior night?
Listen, everyone's going to look past it because that team stunk, but they were a lot better. Listen, statistically, they were better than IUPUI, and IUPUI had a slightly better record than them.
By, what was it, 1 game, 2 games?
I think one or 2 games, but Detroit Mercy was better than their record.
Sure.
Not saying much, but they were better than their record, and they showed up for that rivalry game. They made it a very close game, like we were talking about.
As a fan, it'd be an entertaining game.
Yeah, a very entertaining game, packed house. You got the regular season championship. We got to cut down the nets. That whole ceremony, senior night, that game it had so much weight, and it was a perfect ending for the regular season.
Absolutely. And then for me, for number 1, I have the win at Milwaukee. You've got that Minnesota trip that you're doing and everything. Or Wisconsin, excuse me. Not Minnesota. You got the Wisconsin trip you're doing. That's a double overtime one after just having a game less than 2 days ago. Golke, 27 points. Townsend, 21. 13 of 14 from the free throw line. Absolutely insane stat right there. 13 of his points came from the line. That's incredible. Lattman, 17 points. That's Baru's 17 rebound game. It was just, I think it was one of their most complete games this year. Not in terms of playing well from the start to the finish, but in terms of everyone doing something. I don't know if there's a game on the box score the rest of this year where everyone played so well and tallied up stats like that.
Definitely.
It's just everybody from your starters to your low bench, everyone played so collective and they understood it was, a double overtime game, digging deep in the gas tank. They squeaked it out. It was a phenomenal game as a team, and I think that one helped them do a lot. And like I said, after that game, they win 14 of their next 16 games.
Yeah.
An absolute heater that they were on. And I think it really, really just defined the rest of the season as they went along. Gave them a lot of energy and a lot of momentum heading into the rest of that season as they closed it out.
And for my gold, I'll say the away Wright State game where we won 74-60 because not only because we were there and we broadcasted it, and the Nutter Center is a great place, and Wright State is a very great team, but to be able to show that you can take a nuclear level of offense and bring them down to your level. It was the first game I went to and looked at when the Kentucky matchup was announced because it's a very similar team, and it was kind of like you have proof. Right there, Oakland can beat a glass cannon high scoring team like Wright State because the when you look at the top scoring teams in the country, it was I forget who was number 1, but Kentucky was number 2. Wright State was number 4.
Yeah, they're right there.
So you have that familiar competition where you beat them by holding them close, and you got smoked when you didn't. So to be able to learn how to play that Kentucky game through that Wright State matchup, specifically the win in Dayton, I would say was the biggest regular season game of the year because of what it meant in the postseason.
Yep, absolutely.
So Drew, listen, this review with Drew has been an absolute wild ride. So has this basketball season, and we really appreciate you guys following along with us, not only on the GioMoShow, but with WXOU Sports, with our broadcasts and our live streams, and you guys being able to participate and see it all right here on WXOU Sports. It melts our heart, and we have nothing but appreciation for you, the fans. And from Giovanni Moceri, from Drew Allison, here's to next season on WXOU Sports.